Travis Wayne Goodsell. I had received a comment request to render a Paleo Hebrew translation of the passage in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, that is translated incorrectly in the King James Version as "I am that I am." Bruce R. McConkie refers to this as the great I am. No, it's not. So, first thing that must be understood is that the book of Exodus was written as a completely separate, independent book, and it was written during the Roman period time, and it was technically from the Greek, but Aramaic script was what it was originally from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is older than the first Greek text of it. Although I think there were some Greek texts in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I can't remember if there was a Greek version of the Exodus. But there's a difference between the meaning in Paleo Hebrew and the meaning in Aramaic. The guy who's asking the question knows that I am the decipherer of the ancient alphabets. You've been told, as tradition, that everybody knows the translation, so it doesn't need to be deciphered. Well, they lied to you. They did. And thus, as I went looking for how Joseph Smith rendered the King Follett Discourse, where he says the biblical Hebrew text was translated incorrectly, I then learned that such is the case. And I do have on academia.edu the full decipherment of Paleo Hebrew, not just the script. But we'll give this for you. I can't approve his comment because he used a misspelling of a racial slur in reference to the Hebrews. But I hope he listens so that he gets his answer. The Jews translate this into English as "I will be what I will be," rather than "I am that I am." If you know the pronunciation of the Aramaic script, which you can also use in your published printed text of Psalm 119, you have Aleph, He, Yod, He, and then Aleph, Shin, Resh, and then the repetition of the Aleph, He, Yod, He. The scripts are different in Paleo Hebrew and Aramaic, and thus they come from different Egyptian characters, and thus they're not the same word. They are completely different languages. And it's more of a visionary language rather than a one definition explanation through the phonemes, as our English language is now. We've sort of devolved from the original alphabet and how it was structured. which is what's causing a lot of the problems as to why people can't decipher it. And so, as the authors put it in Aramaic, we'll give that one first, and then we'll give you the meaning in Paleo Hebrew. And so, the Aleph is the shape of the combination of the shepherd's crook and the flail. If you've ever seen King Tut's coffin, they have him with his arms crossing each other over his chest, and he's got the flail and the crook in his hands. That's the symbol. And thus it means Pharaoh, and everything that goes along with it, meaning the flail symbol and the crook symbol. That's part of the meaning of Pharaoh. It's a visionary description, picture, worth 1,000 words. No kidding. So then the next one, the hay, is a person holding a stand upon which they would place a god symbol on top of, and it would be used in parades, ceremonial processions. Trying to think of an example for you. I don't know if any of you have seen the Narmer pellet, but you'd see it on there. And so the yod is just a simple seed, a little scratch thing for a seed, and it's the personification of the origin of creation, and then the repetition of the man holding the stand again. So there's a pattern that you can see in this, as it's a 4-letter word rather than a 3-letter word, or Paleo Hebrew, which is 2 letters with prefix determinatives. In this particular case, you see that the pattern suggests that the Aleph is the prefix determinative here. And so Pharaoh is what's to be understood by the 3-letter word that follows it as an adjective. And so you have 2 stands, 2 persons holding stands, with a seed in the middle of the 2 of them. And so it's the god of creation. And so Pharaoh, as the god of creation, he was understood as God to the Egyptians, and personified as Horus, the seed of Osiris. And so that's how you can visualize the meaning of what's incorrectly translated as I will be or I am. The word in the middle is related to the first and the third word that are the same. And so, as you see a person holding a stand on the outside of a seed, which represents Horus, the Pharaoh. Likewise, you see the Pharaoh in this particular case, and the Shin is the Sea of Reeds, which refers to the afterlife, spirit world. And then you see a curved symbol. I'm being careful not to mix it up with Paleo Hebrew. I wrote it in Paleo Hebrew on my paper here. So I'm trying to remember we're doing Aramaic first. And so it's not a stand, which is a sharp point. This is a rounded edge. And but it still is similar to the God stand in ceremonial processions, in that it's also the flag symbol for deity. That's why it's similar in shape. And so the delta in Aramaic, or the Daleth in Aramaic, is the sharp pointed, and it even overlaps a little bit as the Jews do it in script. And so the flag, being a deity symbol, an ensign, is similarly shaped to the God stand used in ceremonial processions, which the flag also was part of the ceremonial processions. So that's what those extra symbols represent. So if you use Aleph and Shin as the main word, that would be spouse. And so it's the God spouse. That doesn't fit. And so we again have a prefix determinative of Pharaoh for the Aleph. And the actual word, which does correspond with the meaning of the words, is prevail. Because a living prophet of Jesus changed the definition at the pulpit of conference. Yeah, Israel. It's the same word. And Nelson botched it at the pulpit of conference. And so the church, in order to cover it up, have made the translation change. They just haven't notified the Jews that it needs to be changed. And make the correction in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. So, it's Prince. So, yeah. Pharaoh is the prince of Egypt, as Horus, the son of Osiris, the prince. And so that's what Moses is being told. But you have to remember again that Deuteronomy tells us that this is not literal history, that the Christ of the Jews is not Moses, but is a future latter-day human who is like Moses as portrayed in the stories, which are Learning of the Jews, Manner of Prophecy, Books of Revelation for the latter days. It's a symbol, type and shadow of the Christ of the Jews. And so that's what's going on here, is that the man like Moses is talking with Moses about this. This is my name. I am Horus. I am the Prince of Egypt. I am the prophesied one who will restore the kingdom of my father who was murdered. That's what's being done here. So in Paleo Hebrew, it's very similar, but there are some differences. We have given to us the star date and the location on Earth of when and where he will be living for the latter days. That's the Aleph. Alpha, more correct, because it's the same script form as Greek, specifically Paleo-Greek, even though Greek and Paleo-Greek had extra letters added to their alphabet from the original Phoenician, of which Paleo-Hebrew kept the same 22 letters in Phoenician. And so, that's the prefix determinative. The date and place of when and where he will come. And it's the Eye of Horus, the Wajid Eye. So it's a little more compact with more than 1,000 words. Then you have the flail. The flail that Pharaoh is holding, that represents air, because you whip it around in the air to swat flies and to swat your oxen as you're driving them, plowing the fields. And so it represents air. The space between heaven and earth. The Rakia, or Rakiyang, that Joseph was taught from Josiah Sykes. Is that his first name? Rabbi Sykes, who was the foremost rabbi and Hebrew scholar of his day that taught Joseph Hebrew in 1836 for a short period of time. And that's where Joseph Smith in the King Follett Discourse says that he had talked to a learned Jew. That's who he was referring to. And so in his Hebrew grammar, you can see Rakiyang for where Joseph got it from and put it in the Book of Abraham as an explanation. Then you have the Yod, which is the Zeta symbol, comparable to the Greek. And it's the creation combo glyph. The top line is for heaven, bottom line is for earth, and then the one in the middle is for Shu, from the Egyptian story of the Heliopolis creation. Father Shu parting his daughter Nut from son Geb, and the creation of the 365-day calendar came from that, as he was unable to keep Nut from getting pregnant, but in separating them, she was unable to give birth, and so David had to come along and make 5 extra days in the calendar so that the children could then be born on those days. So, yeah, I said David. It's the phonetic equivalent of Thoth, the moon god of the Egyptians, who writes the names in the Book of Life. So, yeah, the Bible knows that too, because it says Adam writes the names in the Book of Life. The Ancient of Days. And so, again, you see the same pattern of the two symbols with the one in between. And you see that it's the creation combo glyph, just like the seed, that was in the middle. And so the two flails are representative of heaven and earth, and the creation between the two of them that designates heaven and earth with the air in between. And so it's a little complex in that sense. It would be better to have had water symbols for heavens, for example, Hashamim. Because that one's a very complex word because it's multiple beyond just the two root words. But you have the water symbol as the prefix determinative, and then you have M, which is the water symbol with a human J stroke for high priest, pouring water like Aquarius is doing. And then you have the Zeta and for Heliopolis creation glyph for creation of heaven and earth in Genesis chapter 1. And then the high priest symbol at the end again. And so that's similar to that concept as Pharaoh holds a flail. Pharaoh is also the high priest, so high priest of heaven and earth with creation in the middle. It's similar to the same meaning of heaven. And so it's best understood from Malachi, referring to Elijah, the god Yah. What is sealed in heaven is sealed on earth. What is bound in heaven is bound on earth. And I guess the easiest way to explain that for you. And so the Father becomes the Son becomes the Father. And then again, you have Prince Horus with the star date for the latter days, the 3 days of darkness that form an aleph over the United States of America. 21st of August 2017, 14 October 2023, and 8 April 2024. Awesome. So that's when he's coming. The Egyptians knew it. The Paleo Hebraeus knew it. The Israelites knew it, etc. Israelites, not let God prevail. That's why he was given the new name Israel. It's because he had usurped the birthright blessing so that his seed, which is triple X, would produce the future latter-day Messiah. So, selections from the book of Moses, chapter 7, verse 53. Blessed is he through whose seed Messiah shall come. You have to watch the other video in order to understand why I thought that was funny in triple X. And so, yeah, the prince word is the water symbol and the flag for God symbol. So, the prince. Because Horus has died and he's up in heaven, in the upper waters of heaven. And so Horus is the god, the pharaoh of the lower waters. Because that's what Genesis talks about, is the division between the two waters, rather than the division between heaven and earth, which is portrayed in the Yod Zeta symbol. So there you go.